Hello, my name is Seah, and today I'm here to present my research on the impact of AI voice on human perception by manipulating two main variables, the gender and pitch. The rapid development and expansion of artificial intelligence, or AI, have transformed the way humans interact with technology. AI is already used throughout multiple sectors. Healthcare, for instance, utilizes AI voices as virtual assistants for patients or for therapy support. The entertainment industry also uses AI voices for narrations, voiceovers, or gaming as digital devices become widely accessible throughout the world with technological advancements. Most importantly, the use of AI in education also holds strong potential. Education has employed AI to help children's language learning, tutoring programs for special education, resulting in countless benefits like reduced anxiety, heightened motivation, greater willingness to communicate, and increased English proficiency. Now, when AI is used in such prominent fields, I came to question, can and how do certain features of AI voices affect human perception? There were numerous studies in the past to observe the relationship between an AI or a robot and humans. One study investigated the perception of AI on robot humanness and acceptance by the variable of gender, concluding that female robots were perceived as more human than male robots. Another study delved into parental acceptance of children's storytelling robots through a qualitative study on how AI can be utilized in daily family routines, revealing that parents had mixed but generally positive perceptions. Another study investigated how voice perception differs by age, showcasing how older adults were less able to differentiate AI from human speech, noticed AI voice less often, and rated AI voice as more natural than younger adults. Yet, let's still look at what was missing among these past studies. One study only used a visual stimuli to differentiate the gender of robots, meaning it was unclear whether it would have the same effect with an auditory stimuli. Another study had a qualitative design which inhibited quantitative comparison, and therefore this does not account for whether voice features may actually influence perceptions. But last but not least, one study used only one female voice throughout the whole study, restricting the study from exploring how gendering of AI speech can influence perception. To fill in these knowledge gaps and deepen my understanding on how specific features of AI generated voices can have a practical impact on human perception, my present study derived the goal of to examine how AI voice features such as gender and pitch affect human perception on AI generated speech. Looking at how I conducted my research, my experimental method was to use a survey platform. My sample size initially began with a total of 69 participants, 31 male and 38 female. Yet I applied the following exclusion criteria: respondents with incomplete answers, incomplete voice summaries, which shows that they did not fully or properly listen to the AI voices I attached to, or respondents with careless responses were removed from my final data analysis to ensure that my data was reliable. Therefore, there were a total of 37 participants' answers used for my final analysis. My stimulus included four differentiated AI synthesized voices: male high, male low, female high, female low. They each were created using an AI voice creating app called Volley, and the voices were all each a few seconds long, and the materials spoken were collected through the Harvard Sentences list and were extended by a few sentences that are semantically coherent. Now, importantly, to measure how human perception was affected by these manipulating variables, I utilized an adopted version of the Mean Opinion Score version 2, or also known as the MOS. The MOS introduced four domains as a measure: intelligibility, naturalness, prosody, and social impression. Intelligibility assessed to what extent the listeners can understand the AI voice, and naturalness measured how human-like this voice sounded, and prosody captured whether the pace, pitch, and expressiveness was suitable for the AI voice. But lastly, social impression reflected broader perceptions like whether or not the voice was emotionally or socially appropriate. In addition to the MOS version 2, the study also measured general acceptance of AI to better understand how people perceive AI voices in real-world settings, especially in education. And to do this, we included three main factors. The first one is on the context of use, which was measured through the question, when you are busy, how effective is an AI for children's storytelling? The second factor was perceived agency, which was also measured through the question, how capable is an AI of independently interacting with children? And last but not least, the third factor was on perceived intelligence, which was measured with how intelligent is an AI in adjusting to different emotional or educational situations. These three questions for the three factors and the questions for the MOS version 2 on the four domains were all rated on a 0 to 10 slider scale by the respondents. There were three main findings or results from this experiment. First of all, by the variable of gender, there was a significant difference of male voices being greater than female voices across all four domains: intelligibility, naturalness, prosody, and social impression. The p-value was less than 0.05 for all data. However, by the variable of pitch, there was no significant difference among male and female voices across all four domains, meaning that the p-value was more than 0.05 for all the data. However, the third finding of this experiment relied on the correlation analysis, where there was a negative correlation between the differences in male and female voices on prosody and perceived intelligence of the voices. And this suggests that the respondents who rated male voices higher on prosody than female voices are more likely to underestimate the intelligence of AI agencies to adjust themselves in particular emotional or social settings. Then moving on to discussing possible reasons behind this conclusion. What are some potential reasons behind the significant difference between male and female AI voices? It may lie in the fact that male voices could have sounded more stable and were more familiar to the respondent, especially because the content provided in our study was informational, not emotional or conversational material. And in such a possible context, listeners may have associated male voices with clarity or authority and may have perceived male voices to be more suitable, which could have impacted their responses. In addition, since participants were only presented with an auditory stimuli without any visual images, and because they were unable to predict what kind of content or what type of voice would appear, the context included a lot of uncertainty. And under such conditions, relatively low and deep male voices could have felt more emotionally calming and stable to listen to for the respondents. But one surprising finding was how my result contradicted with previous research. While Baru et al. Study in 2021 reported that female AI was perceived as more human-like than male AI, the present study showed the very opposite, revealing how male AI voices were perceived more human-like than female AI voices. And this contradiction can be explained by the methodological differences between the two studies. Baru et al.'s 2021 study used visual stimuli, female and male AI images, to assess emotional and social impressions like warmth and comfort. In contrast, the current study focused solely on auditory stimuli, emphasizing perceptual and cognitive evaluations of AI voices in a more quantitative and structured manner. Therefore, these results indicate certain conclusions. That first of all, perceptions of AI are modality specific, meaning the same AI feature can elicit different evaluations based on how it was presented, whether it was visual, auditory, or through multisensory interactions. But then second, the user's perception of AI may vary across emotional and social dimensions compared to functional and cognitive dimensions. The present study's correlation analysis supports this, showing that higher prosody ratings for male AI voices were linked to lower perceived intelligence. And this suggests that functional and cognitive evaluations of AI stimuli may not always align with emotional judgment, as interaction type and context play key roles. However, it is still important to acknowledge the limitations of my study. First, the number of stimuli was limited to 4, which constrains the study from exploring diverse types of AI voices. But then second, the sample size with 37 total participants for the final analysis is small, meaning it was unable to capture the diversity of perceptions across larger and more varied populations. Then, third of all, the participants in the study were adults, not children. This is important, especially as the ultimate or broad focus of this study was on the use of AI on educational fields, which particularly focuses on younger children or younger students in general. However, overall, the study highlights that even subtle features like voice or gender can shape how we perceive AI, reminding us that effective AI design depends not just on function, but on how it feels to users also. Thank you.